question like that. And within the university system, no, I must place the unions in proper perspective for people to understand.
Hello and welcome to the program. Now, during the week, I should say last week now, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo visited the Niger Delta region. Now, the visit was effectively to kickstart the much-awaited dialogue between the federal government and stakeholders of the Niger Delta, including, of course, militants of the region who before now had been bombing oil facilities in that area. Now, the importance of this dialogue cannot be overemphasized. Peace in the Niger Delta, for Nigeria, of course, peace in the Niger Delta is very important for it to be able to achieve some of its targets. For instance, if Nigeria intends to, be able to solve some of its economic problems, it needs to pump out enough crude from that area to be able, for instance, to fund the national budget and get this country out of recession. It's also important to help Nigeria deal with its foreign exchange crisis, which has seen the naira significantly drop in value. Oil, of course, as we all know, is Nigeria's major source of forex earning, and the country needs as much forex as it can get at the moment to be able to shore up its reserve and, of course, defend the naira. Now, while addressing the stakeholders of the region, Vice President Osinbajo expressed disappointment with the level of development in the area. He says with the amount of resources generated from the area, lives should be lived in a better way with better infrastructure. The Niger Delta, he says, deserves a special development status. Now, Osinbajo words suspectedly identifies with leaders and youths of the area. These, of course, are rhetorics that resonate with the people, but matching those rhetorics now with action has always been the problem of Nigeria. Anyway, the talks have not been going easy, as we've been hearing. Some reports say some elders staged a walkout from the venue but were eventually persuaded to return. Details of the discussions have not been made public yet, and the Vice President has said government is making progress in finding a lasting solution to the problems of that region. The big question, therefore, is will this initiative lead to lasting peace in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria? Joining me to discuss this further is Bolaji Ogunsheye, who is a development economist and who has extensive knowledge of the Niger Delta region, having worked there for a long time. Thank you very much, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
With this initiative that the government has kickstarted, even though some of us think this dialogue ought to have started a long time ago, especially after the president met with the leaders of the Niger Delta in Abuja. A lot of people had expected that immediately this process should have started, but then better late than never. But you think, we could be in for some kind of lasting peace now in that region?
Well, that would be a good idea if we were in for some lasting peace experience in the in the Niger Delta region. But the devil always is in the detail, and especially in the sincerity of implementation of whatever final agreements they reach. But I think the process itself should give us some concern. I notice that, after the first set of meetings at Baramatu Kingdom and things, that what you then got was a split. There is NIDEF, I think, and then there is PANDEF and another one and things.
It appears they're beginning to come together
and you would have thought that because this visit, this, if you like, learning visit, consultation, primary, preliminary consultation was coming, you would have thought the various leaders at various levels.
The various leaders of the Niger Delta?
Yes, various leaders of the Niger Delta at various levels, including possibly the state governments and the local government, especially perhaps the local governments, would have got together, created some committees to discuss the various areas of demand.
So you think
with the government,
it should be at that level, the local government level, and not to just discuss with the leaders, bring them together, discuss, and
I said various layers. So, because if you keep doing this thing, it's just the elites and the king and the bad boys who can shoot and disrupt your oil export and everything, you wouldn't have finished solving the problem. See, there are layers of pressure in that region, okay? Of course, there are the politicians in the Senate, in the House of Rep, in the state governors and things. They make all sorts of claims and accusations and things and demands. Then, of course, you have the tough boys, the ones that can really disrupt your exports, okay? The ones that can kidnap, the ones that can blow up, you know, pipes and whatever, okay? Then, of course, you have chiefs and some people called landlords. So if you want to do a project and things, you've got to reckon with the landlords associations. And they take themselves very seriously, okay? And then you have the communities of people, the communities of the majority of people, among whom you have the youth.
Of course.
Of all kinds, graduates, high school dropouts, those who've never had much of an education. And then, of course, you have the environment and those who are directly. So what I'm saying is the government should try to get the view, the perspective of all these layers with, if you ask me, the greatest emphasis on the layers closer to the bottom of the pyramid, okay? So that what you're going to do by way of response will be comprehensive, will be sustainable, and then you can build a process, a mechanism of sincere implementation and the adherence, sincere adherence to the articles and the spirit and the letter of the things agreed and how they will be implemented.
Let's talk about something. We had the Vice President say that the Niger Delta deserves a special development status. And much has been said about the infrastructure of the Niger Delta. As a development economist and as someone who has worked in the Niger Delta region, who has extensive knowledge of that area, is it the case that what the problem of the Niger Delta is today is just infrastructure development, and that if you're able to put this infrastructure development in place, all the problems is solved?
Well, the whole of Nigeria has infrastructural development problem. Yeah? Because it's funny, there are senses in which the Niger Delta is unique. There are senses in which the Niger Delta simply reflects the overall governance failure of Nigeria. We must always make that clear, okay? The entire country is failing developmentally, okay? Infrastructure is bad, okay? But what makes the Niger Delta peculiar or special, to use the Vice President's word, and it is special, is because the resources that we're using to fail, okay, to fail to deliver, those resources
they're coming from
are coming from the Niger Delta, one. Two, they're coming at a price, environmental price, social price, exclusion price, isolation, okay? I mean, many people don't know that in the Niger Delta, you frequently have accidents, boats. When all these big tugs and all these big ships pass, they generate waves that are of the magnitude that sometimes they topple over the boats that are carrying the, these things happen. So the Niger Delta is special. But the Niger Delta is special in another sense, in the sense of the things that the elites don't want to talk about. No. In a way, you can say, okay, let's forget the past. But the Niger Delta continues to be special precisely because the leaders have got a lot of resources into that region, and they've just blown it, by and large. Oh, since Abacha's time, when the money was taken from 3% to 13% derivation, can somebody please calculate for me what 13% derivation of all the oil income of Nigeria has been since Abacha's time to yesterday, and divide that among those states in accordance to how much they produce, because they use it to, you know, things
exactly.
like that. And you look at how much money that is. And they've been collecting their regular budgets, allocation from, you know, FARC.
Yeah, from FARC.
And they've been collecting environmental funds, okay?
They have the ecology fund, of course.
Ecology funds. And they've been collecting, they've had projects, and they've been collecting also resources
we have the NDDC
from the oil
well.
companies and things, and then you have the NDDC, and then you have the Niger Delta. Excuse me, the leaders of the Niger Delta have also failed and betrayed and disappointed the Niger Delta. That's the truth. That is another sense in which that region is special. There is no other region in Nigeria whose leaders have betrayed it to that extent. Okay? But fine, maybe we won't talk about the past. Yaradua did not talk about the past. He started the
amnesty program.
Amnesty as though a lot of money had not been sunk, as though there were no attitudes. There weren't certain set of attitudes and behaviors on the part of the leadership that might lead to the failure of the amnesty. And precisely because the patterns of behavior that have led to the failure of the interventions before the amnesty were not addressed, okay? Partly because the leaders don't even want to appear to be culpable. They just want to throw more accusations. And partly because the government thinks, you know, it's going to be hard to deal with that. Let's just draw the line from here and move forward. Do you understand? But because you didn't deal with how leaders of the Niger Delta had failed the previous interventions, the delivery of those interventions. So you went into amnesty and you had precisely the same thing. A few more people just became billionaires. The situation at the bottom of the pyramid stayed the same. Even among the militants, okay, as usual, most of the resources just flowed upwards. I mean, I know the process. I know how they were paying the amnesty through the militant leaders and things. And they were taking most of the money and just giving peanuts to the board. When those things started happening, we were hearing. I was still in the region, okay? So that is why I say this region is special. It's a kind of warning in the last sense.
But again, I have to
ask
you...
The federal government, when they intervene now, must look at what were the things that made previous interventions fail.
But I still have to ask you that question again. Do you get a sense that if you put up infrastructure development in that region, that it solves the problem of the people, that you wouldn't have agitations anymore?
No, I don't think so. It will make certain things better, especially for those who want to pull themselves by the bootstraps and get out there and create wealth and empower themselves.
Because we can't deny the fact that for some of these guys, what they want is actually money.
Oh yeah, it's money, that's what they want. But what they need is what we should give them. That's what the federal government should give them. What we need in that place is economic flowering, economic resuscitation, economic revival, and inclusive economic revival, okay?
Quite important.
Inclusive, you see, I'm going to just take the topic a little higher and say, and this is not just a Nigerian problem, it's not just a Niger Delta problem, it's an Africa-wide problem. Perhaps a lot of third world problem, but particularly in Africa, and particularly, most particularly in Nigeria. Leadership in Africa, in Nigeria, we have not cultivated, or they have not cultivated, the skills, the habits, even the mentality to deal with the problems of the poor on a mass scale. We know how to make the middle class people get up and rich, the few of them who can. We know how to, look, it's simple. You're going to see Ministry of Niger Delta, NDDC, you should see when they advertise. The advertisement for expression of interest or for contracts and things, once you read it, you know those who have been excluded. The majority. When you ask people to bring 20 copies of this one to show evidence of the work that we are looking after ourselves. We are looking out for ourselves, the middle class. We have to start going into great detail. The same way the elite gather to do national conference. And they get, do you understand? The elite in Nigeria, in government, in private, in all this, they must sit down to spend 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, looking at what? The means and methods, the fine detail, the processes, the knowledge of how to help millions of people get self-empowerment, how to facilitate, how to give them that fillip that will make them fly. The elite do not know how to do it, whether in government, because this is not what we have prepared as. We've always been good at making our kind to shift status, but we don't know how to make millions of people at the bottom of the pyramid to shift status. We've got to learn that skill. If we don't learn that skill and apply it and the processes and apply those things to addressing the Niger Delta problem, it will just be obladi, life goes on.
How quickly do you think this process can be concluded in such a way that an agreement can be hammered out and we'll move from the stage of agreement now to actual implementation?
Sincerity, honestly. You can do it in 6 months. You can do it in 3 months. There are all sorts of platforms
because it appears,
it's
taking a long time to even sit down and talk.
It is the
as I said,
will. It is the will. The elite in the third world, in Nigeria, in Africa, generally, we're not constructed in our attitude, in our to public life, we're not designed at our DNA level to look deeply and seriously and hard-nosed at how do you help the poor
and do you think
in large numbers?
Do you think the government is moving with speed at all? When you consider how important this is, you know, when President Buhari met with the stakeholders in Abuja sometime last year, we thought the government was going to move with speed on these talks. At some point, the guys over there got tired. They started threatening now to resume the bombing of facilities until the vice president recently met with the stakeholders in that region. But by now, you would expect that talks would have reached an advanced stage and not what we're having. So do you think the government is moving fast enough? If it is not, what do you think could be holding it back?
You see, it's because if you look at it, the poor majority, let's say in the whole of Nigeria and in the Niger Delta, you see, the impact of the poor majority, immediate impact on day-to-day governance issues, all right? Getting on with governance. Their impact doesn't show up that quickly on the radar. But if it is association of fuel importers, do you understand? Do you see how quickly we resolve those problems when they stop to bring the fuel?
No, because I don't think we don't have to wait for those guys to start bombing facilities again.
That's what I'm saying. This is why it's only when they react negatively that's where we start doing this. And I said, no, look, that's bad enough. But what I'm saying is that we should try to get it right. They should try to get it right this time around. By studying what is it that made the previous interventions fail. They have not, those things are still there. Those poisons in the system, in the structure, they're there. The greed of the elites, speculation, influence peddling, corruption, taking advantage of the stakeholders. You know, I've told you, I have no stomach, I have no time for calling the masses, the poor stakeholders. It's a waste of time. We should move from calling them just, you know, touting them as stakeholders, which is meaningless now. When it started, it had some meaning. 20 years ago and things, you know, 10 years ago, I was...
They hold no stake now.
Yeah, stakeholders, there is no stake. We should now convert them into real value shareholders. You know, and we shouldn't just make generalized statements like there should be indigenous participation in the oil economy. No, we should say clear things like communities should be clustered and made to participate in oil licenses, in the ownership of oil licenses. And then you now go down to the details. How will the community benefit? How will you break it down? What will go to households or compounds or families? It's very tough. It's not that easy, but it can be done. Okay? What will go to the core investor? What will go to the whole community as community? You understand? But you can work it out. The first thing is not to be afraid or to be dodgy and say that, oh, it's going to be very difficult. How are you going to do it? No. address it. Put your nose into it. We will find out the means and methods and mechanisms to deliver real value, shares in the oil economy. Look, the government has to renew licenses from time to time. You can say we're going to dock so much percentage from the licenses of all these big, holders. We're going to transfer those percentages to clusters of communities. Okay? So there will be real shareholders. Now, you go down and go and work out how that works out at the community level and things. What you will use to do infrastructure in the community. How much of it will be dividends and things. Until the leadership shows the sincerity to this level of minutiae, we are not going anywhere in the Niger Delta. If they still stay at the level of when they do this thing, then they let the benefit captors, okay, who are the leaders, the big people, the ones who are fighting now over ANDEF and all these things, if they let them also capture the agreements that come out of this, it will just go another round after 3-4 years, the whole thing will start again.
Well, let's just hope the government moves with speed to resolve the issue in the Niger Delta, because if you ask me, I think the government has just been too slow with this talks, the dialogue and all of that. I don't know how long it will take to even set up a team to sit down and start talking. And let's just hope the government, that this visit of the vice president does not, that we don't wait for another while until this guy is threatening to blow up before we begin to see action, because it's always a problem. But then, thank you very much, sir, for coming on the program, and thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be speaking to someone I want to call a stakeholder now in the Niger Delta region. Stay with us. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.